red flag, and I think you're going to see more and more wise states take these measures, which I would be fully supportive of. Obviously, the U.S. dollar really could collapse at any time now, and our time frame is, well, it's tomorrow, but it could be 3 months to less than 3 years of the general projections from most of the folks that we follow, the economists throughout the world, like Mark Faber and Max Kaiser and Gerald Celente and Peter Schiff and John Williams and Dr. Elliott and Congressman Ron Paul. This did not get a lot of exposure, but we can send you the link to the information that I had on it anyway. I think it was March 13th. Tim Geithner was quoted somewhere stating that the U.S. government would in fact support a global currency. And of course, whether you own bonds or not, this impacts you. Particularly if you own bonds, it certainly impacts you immediately and directly. But it impacts all of us. It impacts the country and impacts the world. Bill Gross, the largest bond fund manager really in the world, the PIMCO Total Return Fund is well known. Bill Gross is to bonds as Warren Buffett is to stocks, I'll phrase it that way. And basically, we have an issue here where Bill Gross typically has 24% of his bond investment portfolio in U.S. Treasuries and U.S.-backed notes and bonds. He's unloading it in a frenzy, and he has stated on the record that he will no longer purchase any more U.S. Treasuries. My friends, that is a major, major red flag. And yes, I will turn my droid off. One moment. I'll put it on silent. That should do it. If not, I'll shut the phone. I keep my communication lines open during these events because sometimes people are giving me some advice. Okay, so we have PIMCO is a major issue, dumping bonds. Again, red flag number 3 or 4, I've lost count. And of course, this is old news, but for those that didn't get it, and by the way, we will talk about Japan when Dr. Elliott comes on. The other issue is the IMF, International Monetary Fund, is positioning themselves. There's a 40-some-odd page report come out last year, which is a precursor to the statement I'm about to make. And they're resurrecting the Bancor, which goes back to, I think, Keynes way back when, or one of those guys. But basically, they stated that they will preparing to replace the dollar as the world's reserve currency in an interim to, quote, keep the transitionary piece of the economic system until a one world currency is fully done. That could be down the road. And they intend to do it through something called SDRs, or special drawing rights. That was Associated Press, Newsmax, and CNN about a month ago. Of course, we have the legislation regarding potential government grab of the IRAs and 401ks. And again, you can download a free report, Compliments of Bellinger, which is on my site at assetpreservationinstitute.org. Again, on that flash screen, just sit through it, about four seconds, it changes over, and you'll see government IRA grab or something. Click and download that free report. There are some updates since that report, but long and short of it is, make no mistake about it, there's an 1,100-page bill in committee, not on the floor, it's not imminent. There are 5 risks facing IRAs and 401ks, in my opinion. And that, of course, is stock risk, because the market is not fundamentally strong. 2, bond risk. Bonds are imploding, interest rates rise, bond yields drop. 3, currency and inflation risk, 3 and 4, and they're really kind of one and the same. And that's really the biggest threat, the biggest story, and the most imminent aspect of this mess, in my opinion. And the 5th risk facing the IRAs and 401ks today is, of course, this legislation. And again, it's only in committee, but it's been there for 2 years. They've had public hearing phases with Goldman Sachs folks. Gucciardi is her name, if I pronounced it correctly. And you can read about that on that document. And but last quarter, which is not in that document, it's a recent update, last quarter of 2010, the Labor Board and ERISA met with the Treasury Department, and that's public record. You can Google that if you go to those sites and backtrack that. It was September 14th, 15th, and 16th. And they're moving forward with this bill. And again, two ways it can be passed. One, it can go through the standard legislative process and come onto the floor, and that would certainly give us enough time to cash our IRAs out or look towards strategies to protect it from a government grab. You know, if there were a national emergency, an event that would trigger that, whether it be real or staged, it doesn't matter. But if there were an event that would trigger a national emergency, well, certainly through executive order, in a matter of days, those accounts could be confiscated based on that bill that's sitting there. And I'm not trying to scare everyone. I'm providing some facts, some resources to cite those facts, and some commentary. And so, and basically, essentially, the bill says many, 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 many different things. But in essence, it's take the IRAs and 401ks through legislation, buy U.S. Treasuries, annuitize it at 3% growth rate, which would condemn it to significantly less than inflation. You receive sort of an annuity payment for life, and when you die and go to heaven, they keep 50% of it. Also, if you have too much, like when they look at your balance sheets, because there's no privacy, of course, when they take a look at your IRAs and maybe you have a large Social Security and a couple of pensions, then there's formulas in there that say you have too much, and they redistribute it because it's part of a socialized program. Those are my commentary on that. So that's the next issue facing us. And again, all state pensions will collapse between 2014 and 2044. There's a list of that, and we can make that available to you. It's from, I think, the Kellogg Business University. The PhDs there did the analysis. They surveyed all, 49 states participated. One state did not. But out of those 49 states, everyone will go belly up between 2014 and 2044. Those are state pensions. Congressional Budget Office released an advisory to approximately 150 cities to default on their municipal bonds. They released that at the same time they released the $1.6 trillion deficit that we have. And of course, in my opinion, this one man's humble opinion is I'm going to say that shaving the budget by 60 or 100 billion is entertaining when you have a $1.6 trillion problem. They're not going to solve it. Again, my opinion, they're going to raise the debt ceiling. They're going to print more money, and they're going to kick the can just a little bit further down the road. And my friends, that road is running out, and that is the collapse of the dollar. That is inflation and hyperinflation. And so the other aspect of this is I believe, and Dr. Elliott or perhaps Stewart can confirm later, I believe that QE2, which was approved last quarter last year, I think they dumped $600 billion in and bought some treasuries, monetized the debt, and paid some bills for a while. But they approved the $1.1 trillion in QE2, and I think the second half of that, or approximately $500 to $600 billion, is about to be used again, meaning they'll go to the Federal Reserve, the private banking cartel, borrow money at interest, monetize the debt, and buy a little bit more time. And okay, I'll have to address that in a moment. Yeah, I'm being given an important note. Just bear with me, folks. I have to read this. It pertains to one of our speakers. Just bear with me. How can we do it over the phone and let them hear it?
You would call, I would hold my phone up.
Okay, we'll test that out. Get it queued up. Thank you very much. We'll see if it works. Okay, folks, sorry. And so by doing this, monetization of the next, in other words, the next already approved 600 bill in QE2 is about to hit the street. I don't know when. I'm going to take a guess, probably next month or two. Certainly between now and June would be my opinion. And but that 1.6 trillion is still needed beyond that 600 billion of QE2. And so we have a big problem here, and I believe they will raise the debt ceiling when they do this vote, and they will print or approve in a certain timeline that next 1.6 trillion, and that's where we find ourselves. And so, of course, economists will tell you that it takes approximately 24 months for the injection of that M3 money supply into the system to to show up on Main Street as price inflation. In other words, hitting our pocketbooks. The gas you're buying, the food we buy, the energy, etc. And very quickly, as I conclude my talking points, you have in 2008 they increased the money supply 13%, and again it takes about 2 years for that injection of money supply to equate to 13% inflation. And that's why we find ourselves today at approximately real rate of inflation about 13%. Well, the real trouble lies in the fact of what's already been done in 2009, irreversible. They injected 129% on the M3 supply of money, which means 2 years, or about the end of this year, beginning of 2012, we're going to see the onset of triple-digit inflation. And that is really what is happening. So the currency collapse is now imminent. The National Inflation Association that I've followed since their inception, outside of their futures and commodities recommendations to purchase securities, outside of those recommendations, I believe they've been 100% correct on all of their analysis. And they came out and said not too long ago, some weeks back, you've probably seen it, that the collapse of the dollar literally could occur at any day. So with all that, connecting the dots, the currency collapse is now imminent. What follows, of course, will be social chaos and perhaps martial law. And the government is preparing, so we should be preparing. And that's in part why we have an expert like Stuart Rhodes to prepare us individually, a community, statewide and nationwide, through his efforts in the Oath Keepers. And Dr. Elliott will be talking us on how we can prepare individually as well, and he'll provide additional commentary on the geopolitical, economic situation, the impact of Japan, and many other issues that are unfolding, the public policy that's coming out of Washington. And of course, I'm not afraid to discuss the New World Order. I'm not afraid to say that this is not happening by accident, but by deliberate, calculated design for decades. Both Republicans and Democrats are puppets to the machine. They take their marching orders from the architects of chaos, and they're driving our beloved America to its knees. And I would submit two things. One, for all intents and purposes, America, as you and I know it, has been is over. And we have two things to do. We have to protect, preserve, and prepare for what's coming. And then secondly, we have to restore the republic. And that's what this discussion is going to be about. There will be bank failures, food shortages, hyperinflation, energy shortages, stock and bond market crash, dollar crash, chaos, rioting, martial law, fall of local, state, and federal governments. And so we're going to be getting into solutions. I know that's a lot of heavy stuff, but don't shoot me. I'm only the messenger. And so I do want to close out my talking points with two last comments, and then we're going to bring on our speakers, Dr. Kirk Elliott and Stuart Rhodes. And we will, after each of our speakers conclude their talking points, we'll open up, I'll keep sending these questions in, folks. We're jotting them down, and we will address as many questions as we can in the last 30 to 45 plus minutes. And I'll provide at the closing of Stuart Rhodes' comments and discussion with us a variety of direct resources and action items that you can take individually and community and state and nationwide. So stick around to the very end. We will conclude at 9 p.m. Eastern. I do want to take a moment. This won't take long at all, but it's extremely important. This is an excerpt from John Williams, PhD economist. Now, you know, there's plenty of PhDs and economists out there, and they would be well respected for getting their PhDs. But this particular PhD is kind of known as the PhD in economist that he's the economist. People go to John Williams, shadowstats.com, shadowstats.com. Lots of free data there, very technical in nature. May not be for you, but we're going to interpret that for you in just a moment. And if you pay and subscribe like I've done, and so that is red flag number one. When states are passing it through their own legislature, through the process, as not a replacement of U.S. dollar, Federal Reserve note currency, but in addition to that. And so again, that is a